Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AMT Tech Trends podcast, where we discuss the latest manufacturing technology research and news. Today's episode is sponsored by Modern Machine Shop Made in the USA podcast. More on them later. I am the Senior Director of Technology, Benjamin Moses, and I'm here with
Stephen Lamarca, AMT's technology analyst. Almost forgot.
I stumble a little bit because my notes are all screwed up here, and I crossed the wrong thing out here.
That stumbling is contagious.
Steve, we had an on-site training last week, and one of the topics that we hit on was project management. I know you and I want to talk about.
First off, let's not call it on-site training. The title was the AMT's Cornerstone
Week, yeah.
And even though AMT has a lot of employees dispersed throughout the United States, all of them were flown to AMT's HQ, our office, and we basically had almost a week of team building activities, educational seminars, and overall it was just an awesome, great time.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I really liked it. One of those seminars happened to be on project management.
Yep. We underrate the value of project management.
I would say I don't. I might even overrate the value of project management because I don't fully understand. After the project management seminar, I had probably not just one. I would say I probably had 2 or 3 hour-long discussions with Mo on and off-site work about project management and my just blatant misunderstanding. I even had Chris and Kristen, 2 amazing project managers.
Yep.
The 3 of them, you, the 4 of you guys are AMT's rock star project managers.
Sure.
And I had the 3 of them, Mo, Chris, Kristen, all the best project managers ever, trying to explain to me. I wouldn't say I'm a total idiot, but trying to explain project management. For example, I was just not picking it up at all. For example, Kanban.
Sure.
I love me some every time the guy said Kanban, our instructor said Kanban.
You giggled
I repeated it.
Okay, good.
So he'd say, "No, we use Kanban for," and I was like, "Kanban."
Yeah.
I think I was starting to annoy the people around me. But I have a, and I don't want you to go long into this because we only have. Let's try to keep this episode to a half hour. But I can't tell a difference between Kanban and Scrum. To save my life, if somebody held a gun to my head and was like, "What's the difference between Scrum and Kanban?" I'm dying that day.
Let's use some simple language in the stuff we want to talk about today. Let's talk about inventory of tasks.
Yes. Okay.
So that's kind of related to Kanban.
I like that. I like the sound of that. Makes sense.
There we go.
You have a number of tasks.
Yeah.
A stockpile, if you would.
Yep. Which
ones have to go to shipping and receiving, and which ones are overhead?
Yeah. Which one? You got to pull from somewhere. So let's create an inventory of tasks. Now, we were talking about
IoT. Great. We just made it more confusing.
Let's put more acronyms in this thing. So I think a lot of people that are managing their tasks, everyone has a task list somewhere. That's your inventory. That's where you're pulling your Kanban from.
Yeah.
Some people have sticky notes. Some people have a digital version. We've been using Workflowy for a long time.
I love Workflowy, but that's just a list. It's just a listing tool.
Yeah.
It allows you to just write lists. You can do some macros with it. There are some macros.
Yeah.
I'll be totally honest with you. I don't use the macros.
Okay.
Because it as a listing tool is just so powerful.
Yeah.
But go on.
At home, I use sticky notes and a whiteboard.
Respect.
So on the weekend, I have a list of things to do. I create a big list of inventory, and I move things if I want to do them or if postpone them to other stuff.
Nice.
So that's my kind of note about project management. That the conversation we had last week was more of the culture and kind of topics, how we actually go about it. And then, to be honest, a lot of companies, when they have when they use a Kanban system on their own factory floor, because you can do that for work, right? Or it doesn't matter managing workflow on the on the shop floor or just tasks in an office, you can use sticky notes to indicate you have inventory of stuff and where it sits in the process. So I've seen a lot of factories just use, a giant sticky note board for managing their kind of workflow through their factory. So, the tools that we're talking about, there are digital versions, and it is nice to have a lot of the digital tools so we can see where things are across the organization. But in the end, it's real life versus digital. What's
Yes.
the best tool do you need at that time?
Right. And I think we had a really great discussion about, because one of the things our instructor said was sticky notes are better than any software. And it was like, so what software do you recommend? Like somebody was asking, what softwares do you recommend? Which ones are the most successful to you? And it's like software offers some added flexibility that you can't get out of just a physical whiteboard and sticky notes. But at the end of the day, there's something inexplicable to the feel of writing down something on a sticky note and putting it physically, adhesing it to a board, and taking a step back and looking at it. There's a physical experience to it.
Agreed.
And there's, I meant to get his sources if he has any on, because he made a bold statement saying that an actual whiteboard and sticky notes are more effective than any software that he's used, or any software that was used in whatever source he has, should he have one.
Right.
And I would love to read just that article.
That'd be fun.
And to be fair to Mo, going back a little bit, to be fair to Mo, Chris, and Kristen, they all concluded, because of my inability to comprehend project management, they all concluded, you just, to get project management and to be good at it and to understand what goes into it, you just have to be thrown in. You just have to be baptized by fire.
Right. Just do it.
And you can't do it with one project, because I was telling them about how I did the AMT's 2020 priority project, and of the 3 priority projects, mine actually got done.
Right.
But nobody would still call me a project manager because it was just one project.
Sure.
Being a project manager, it's like saying, I actually have no example. I have nothing to say here. But that's like saying you're a school teacher, but you only teach your child and it's homeschooling. You're not a school teacher. You just teach your child.
Right.
To manage a project, you can't be a project manager. You can't just manage one project. You have to manage multiple projects. But anyway, going back to the digital versus physical sticky note, this got me thinking, because I wanted to prove him right or wrong.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people in our audience did, because we're all smart cookies here, except for the ones that can't wrap their head around project management. It was really insightful to the concept of digital twins. So I agreed immediately with our teacher, our instructor, Alan was his name, with that's a good point. I play a lot of racing games.
Yep.
And in those racing games, I have my own car. And I've even spec'd my car in the game to be almost exactly like my car in real life.
Yep.
And I gotta say, the car in the game feels just like it handles and it's numbingly slow, just like my car in real life. But I get to experience my car and feel the comparison between the real life and the digital version.
Yep.
And because I don't live in California or anywhere near it, I can take my car in the game to Laguna Seca and actually put some laps around the track.
That's cool.
I've put laps around the Nürburgring, and I'm no way am ever gonna I'm gonna have a Ferrari before I'm able to ship my car to Germany to drive it around the Nürburgring. There's the benefits of a digital twin, but at the end of the day, there's also other cars, for example, a Ferrari. I'm never gonna own a Ferrari. but the closest thing I can is driving it in a game.
It's someone else's digital twin.
And it's a digital twin. I take it. I have confidence that somebody did the due diligence to ensure that the Ferrari in the game feels and handles as closely as possible,
Sure.
as digitally possible,
Yeah.
to how it feels in real life. And that's enough for me, because I'd rather not pay for those $4,000 oil changes. 4,000 is probably light. It's probably more than that.
It's probably more.
There are some other examples of like a digital twin that I had in here. No, I didn't.
No, was that the only one?
That was the only one. It was comparing that to Post-it notes versus a whiteboard.
No.
Now, the flaw with the whiteboard, and
Sure.
just like the flaw with the car,
The sticky
is
notes fall off.
I can't take my car to the Nürburgring.
Correct.
I can't go to Laguna Seca.
Yep.
Like, I only have these awful roads around Tyson's to appreciate my car with.
Yep.
The digital twin lets me take it anywhere,
Yeah.
but it's only digital. It's not the physical, real life thing.
Right.
The whiteboard and the sticky notes are only here in the office. If you think of something in the middle of the night and you complete something or want to manage something, I guess, are you going to get out of bed, get dressed at like 2 a.m. to come in and move a sticky note from one area to the next, or add another sticky note to it? No. You're going to want like a digital solution on your phone, ready to roll.
Right.
Anyway, I knew we would go too long on this.
I think the key is being able, having the tool transportable and communication, right? If you wanted to see how another project was doing, you could just kind of poke in there. If, you had the sticky notes, you'd have to walk to a room and look and figure out and read people's handwriting, which is, don't try and read mine. My handwriting's terrible.
I think the point is, why not both?
Why not both? That's fair.
The Jan de Nys would tell us, when we're talking about digital twin this much, he'd be like, you can't use the word digital twin unless you have a physical original.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
that's cool. I like that concept. So project management, the core of project management is a couple of layers, right? The main thing is about communication, staying organized, but it's a productivity tool.
It's a tool,
right?
It's a philosophical concept to be used as a tool,
Exactly.
and people who can wrap their head around that philosophy and are effective with it get paid a lot of money.
The next topic we wanted to talk about.
I have another tool to talk about.
Tell me more.
It's the tool of our generation, our lifetime.
Yeah.
It's the next greatest tool. Going back to, let's think about the greatest tools of all time. Like, of all time. The first, a chimp picked up a stick and used it as a club, probably to beat another chimp to death with. But I digress. Then, a Neanderthal created fire.
Yeah.
And then probably a more advanced Neanderthal created the wheel, and then, we became Homo sapiens sapiens, and then we've harnessed electricity and all this kind of stuff. But the new tool, our new stick, is AI.
Artificial
Chat
intelligence.
GPT, baby. You've heard it all over the place. We're going to keep talking about it. But, there's a lot of fear around it. There's a lot of concern. I can't wait to get into how the art community is handling it, rather losing their minds over it right now. They are super butthurt. But anyway, I digress. The point is just to reassure everybody and calm everybody down. It's a tool.
Correct.
It's just a really good tool. It's a tool like a paintbrush, but a paintbrush that also has Autodesk Fusion 360 in it. But it's also easy to use. It's that powerful.
Go ahead.
No, you go on. It's a tool. I think they get it.
And one thing that I think a lot of people are glossing over is, people are using this tool and posting their results wherever. The more we've been using AI in a lot of our content, the one thing I've always come back to is always check your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before you even, copy and paste out of the screen or have hit the next button in your tool, incremental checks throughout the entire process is pivotal. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that and actually I have an article that I'll talk about this a little bit later, is the human is pivotal in terms of you can trust, but you got to verify.
Yeah. It's so important to like going back to project management. Promise I won't go back again. But like it doesn't do the work for you.
Right.
It still needs to be checked. It gets you really close.
Yep.
It fills gaps.
Yep.
It breaks down roadblocks, especially writer's block a lot. But it doesn't do everything for you. We've been using OpenAI's Playground for a while now, but that's more like comparing that. They both use the same engine. Both ChatGPT and the Playground are the same engine, but the Playground is really like a command prompt. It's like the blank screen, and you enter a code or a command.
The good old days of DOS.
And hope that you get a result that you want.
Yep.
And if you don't get the result that you want, you keep tweaking the input until you get the output that you want. ChatGPT is like that, but for dummies. Because there's the problem, and we'll get to that. But like ChatGPT is so powerful because it makes the programming of the AI's output conversational.
Correct.
Not everybody can speak program code. Not everybody can. It maybe in the computer can't. The Playground rather can't understand what the heck you mean half the time. So less than half the time. But the way to ensure that people are programming it properly is to fix the language barrier, fix the lost in translation, and that's why conversational is so important. I think what's special about ChatGPT isn't so much the AI, because like I said, we've been using it forever, and it is special and magic. But what's even better than that is the conversational programming on top of that. And pre-pandemic, Tim was trying to get us hyped up about some technology that was being applied in a conversational way. And I don't remember what it was.
Who knows?
But man, ChatGPT really stole it from them, whoever that was.
And to be fair, there are more competing conversational tools now. Google released one. I'm sure Microsoft is right behind. So,
oh my God. That's scary. That's the scary part. So, you have every reason to be scared about that stuff. When companies only see dollar signs and they look at something as influential and disruptive as ChatGPT with only dollar signs in their eyes, that's when you're going to have bad things happen. And that kind of scares me. But ChatGPT isn't the one.
The capitalism to push out some of these tools, and to your point, I think that does alarm me a little bit, because the need to get to market as soon as possible. I think to your point of the underlying trust and ethics related to artificial intelligence, basically the training tools the training models they use to get their end state.
Yeah.
That's the biggest concern I have is, what corners were cut, or what database was used that's maybe kind of an extension as opposed to building their own tools or their own learning set.
I had a lot of my faith restored. Not that it was ever gone, but like, well, I listened to a little bit of the Lex Friedman podcast where Lex was interviewing, really having a conversation with who Lex Friedman is an MIT AI researcher, was having a conversation with the CEO of OpenAI.
Right.
And the OpenAI CEO was like, picture all of big tech's CEOs, and now picture the complete opposite of them. Like, not super humble and just a really down to earth.
That's cool.
Not without the facade of trying to be down to earth, and he was just super humble about the product, and was like, listen, like, our AI is still very juvenile. It's infantile.
Yep.
Like, what we're seeing now is incredible, sure, but it's still in the early stages, and it's got a long way to go. And that's why we can't fathom charging people too much for it yet. It said that in so many words.
Right.
But it was just really reassuring hearing him talk like that. But getting to like the ethics about it, I personally find that hilarious, because you and I know that it's a tool. It doesn't do the work for you. You need to have input. But the art community, I think it was last year that an AI artist won several awards, if not all of the awards for modern art or whatever.
Yeah.
And the art community was outraged because it was an AI. It wasn't a person. It was an AI that created these masterpieces that were so good they beat out all the human competition. And the art community naturally was outraged, but not because of this new paintbrush, which is effectively what it is that made this incredible artwork. But there was a lot of concern about, like, well, it was very American, the argument, because it was like, how are we going to sue to get money out of this? Because they were like, the AI tool scoured Google Images looking at photos that belong to other people of things and looking at other art pieces for inspiration. And it's like, wait a minute. Then that means every artist after the internet age needs to be sued for royalties. Because, like, you would, if you painted something, nobody would come after you and be like, if you painted the Washington Monument, the National Park Service or the wouldn't come after you and be like, hey, that is like we own that. You need to pay us royalties because this obviously inspired you. I think I used a better example yesterday. I was like, if you painted or drew and got a lot of money for like drawing an obelisk, the first thing you'd picture, because this is how our minds work and this is how artificial intelligence works, is an obelisk. What the hell is an obelisk? Oh, like the Washington Monument. And then you need to be sued because the Washington Monument doesn't belong to you. Whoever does own it, the government, you're going to give them taxes anyway for any money you make. But, like, they need more because that's their piece that inspired you. No, that doesn't work like that. like muses are not paid and they don't get royalties. So anyway,
is our community just angry just to be angry? Is that their thing? I feel like that's a cultural thing for our community. They like to just be angry.
Yeah, they get really worked up at politics, which, I mean, who doesn't? But, like, then they pour their life into creating art. And they know darn well that nobody goes into art and is successful while they're alive. You don't start making money until you're dead.
Oh, that's a bummer. I'll take that off my list of things to do then.
I think that's why they're so worked up.
I think so.
Dude, you sleep in the bed you make.
I also think they got a bad beat from NFTs.
No, I don't think NFTs affected them at all.
No?
NFTs are so dumb. They're not dumb. They just have nothing to do with art. NFTs, if anything, will help art, I think, and artists.
Maybe. I doubt it.
In protection of IP. It's like blockchain.
Correct.
NFTs and blockchain are very special tools.
The application for art.
The original application that brought them into the public eye is awful.
Yes.
And like crypto bros ruined the blockchain.
I'm glad they're gone from video games.
Unfortunately, crypto bros are not gone because the crypto bros die out in one of two ways.
Tell me.
They either go broke and they become a bum on the street.
Or
they become successful enough to become an investment bro.
Oh, no.
And they're just as bad, if not even worse, because they're not as clout chasing. They hide in the shadows, and next thing you know, they have all the money.
Steve, let's move on to our sponsor.
Yes. Modern Machine Shop, Made in the USA podcast. Tune in for Modern Machine Shop's Made in the USA podcast to explore manufacturing issues faced by companies making an intentional choice to manufacture in the U.S. Featuring commentary from OEM leaders, Made in the USA blends its nearly century-long expertise with a unique audio storytelling experience to shine a spotlight on the past, present, and future of American manufacturing. Find Made in the USA on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Follow Modern Machine Shop on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Thanks, Steve.
There's somebody I watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I like nice shoes and boots, and I've got a pair of made in the USA Wolverine 1,000-mile cap toe boots.
Okay.
The Wolverine boots are made in Michigan.
Nice.
And the leather that they use is Horween Chrome XL in number 8, because that's the only color you should be buying. Number 8, which is like a burgundy. It's like a purplish brown. It's really awesome. That leather comes from Chicago and from Horween in Chicago. That's where the tannery is. And I think they source the hides from Texas. Anyway, super made in USA. I love them. But anyway, like you got to take care of them because it's or at the end of the day, it's organic matter.
Right.
It will decay and rot and fall apart if you don't take care of them. So like I watched some YouTube videos way more than I probably should have recently on how to take care of them. And one of the videos that I watched was from a channel called Rose Anvil, and the guy has an entire series comparing and ranking the best made in the USA shoes and boots.
Oh, cool.
And he calls it the Metusa series for Made in the USA.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that.
Went on all of that to just tell you that dumb nugget of information. Anyway.
That's a good punchline. So I've got 2 articles. They are artificial intelligence related, but one is related to automation, and the other one's related to metrology. So it's interesting how they both kind of dive into, or the need for artificial intelligence. The first one I'll get into is actually from Forbes. Can large language models enhance efficiency in industrial robots? So
Forbes is talking about this?
Forbes is talking about it.
Who's the author?
I don't know.
Is that Jim?
There might be a Jim involved.
Okay. Respect if it's Jim, because he knows what he's talking about. Other Forbes? Or other Forbes contributors? We'll see. But go on.
We'll check this work. So the interesting thing that you talk about is we've come to know in the past few years how important automation is for the growth in the manufacturing industry, particularly in the U.S. As there's a big initiative, obviously, to reshore back into the U.S. or reshore locally, domestically, depending on your location. And automation is one of the enabler technologies to help us scale up, but also be price competitive to compete in the future against other global markets. And they talk about tools that enable better human-to-machine interfaces, better HMIs. And robotics is one of those areas where they're thinking about where tools like Chat GPT or other tools related to conversational commands to help implement robotics.
You know it.
And I thought it was a very interesting article about the tools that we have available to accelerate the adoption of other technologies. So using conversational tools as leverage for improving your physical manufacturing line. And it goes through a couple of scenarios. One is speech to robot programs. So issue a command similar to what Siri, Alexa. Yeah, that's the one.
This is the article? Okay.
Maybe. No, that's not the one.
Oh, sorry. I threw off the beat.
So, issuing verbal commands, again, getting to programs. So that's been around. The adaptation into the manufacturing sector is a little different because of noise and, the clarity. And there's one of the limitations we'll get to later on. But being able to text to program or speech to program. That's fairly
incredible.
That's fairly interesting. The other one is line by line program explanations. So telling you what the programs are doing. So one interesting thing that they talked about in this one is the learning curve of an operator or someone on the floor for robotics. So if I'm on the floor and I want to see what someone else did, going line by line, reading other people's code is terrible. If you're in software dev, you have to do that. It's a nightmare reading someone else's code. People rather just scrap someone else's code and rewrite it from scratch than trying to figure out what they did. So being able to be told what a block of code does is super efficient and reduces a lot of the learning curve for a lot of people. The other one is adaptation. So automation's very, very robust depending on scale. The bigger the volume, the easier it is to justify and implement. But if you have low volume, high mix, how do you change from one to another? And they're looking at different tools using, conversational language to say, okay, instead of this part or this series, switch over to another part or another command. So that's another benefit, is being able to modify your existing programs very, very rapidly. So those are three scenarios where it's beneficial, but there are limitations to this. And we did briefly touch on this earlier, is yes, it can get you a result. The question is that result accurate? So the article kind of talks about putting in buffers before it physically moves an object. So, have it create a code, then we've got to manually verify, is that code correct?
Yeah.
So the limitation is everything has to be manual checked, which is 100% true. To be fair, it's across everything, but it's not true. I think it's unfair to say the tool is super robust right now to get you to moving an arm right away. And I think that's where, the limitations of, it can accelerate you, but someone has to come back and verify. Someone has to come back and say, yes, this won't crash. Yes, this did not miss something that the program didn't see, or things like that.
That's incredible. And it goes back to what you said earlier, trust but verify.
Yep.
Oh, man. I think that is so wild, because the conversational, when you take the conversational aspect of ChatGPT or something like ChatGPT and pair that with voice recognition software that both Google and Apple have, and then OpenAI's ability to take what you want and be able to write code to it and be able to send that to a robot arm, even though it's not like the computer might not be directly connected to said robot arm, assuming they're both on the Internet of Things, and that robot arm receives the program code. You could do something like a machinist or a machine tool technician could be working on a machine and drop their wrench, but they're trying to hold something in place,
right,
and be like, hey, can you grab that with the FANUC arm, assuming it has a gripper? And there'd be some processing lag.
Yep.
Can you imagine? Like, in the future, the problem is going to be the processing lag of somebody saying something to a computer.
Right.
The computer has to process what they need, simulate it, and then send the final verified program, assuming that the computer was able to verify itself.
Yep.
Or send it to somebody who can verify it for them, and then send that program to the robot, and the robot grabs the wrench and hands it back to the technician.
I have a task for you.
Yeah.
At the robotic block
Don't
party.
ask me to get the pocket unseated or the test bed to do this.
No,
I can't.
At the block party in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Can you ask about this?
Absolutely.
I think it's a worthwhile conversation.
This is incredible.
Where they are in their development cycle, to see, are they thinking about this line of path?
I think they definitely are, but I'll keep asking it, because from my visit to FANUC, FANUC has done a lot to make programming robots as easy as possible.
Yep.
With like touch screens and icons instead of code.
Yep.
Like you can take the icon of the command or the thing that you want the robot to do and drag it to a line of sequences.
Yep.
So you can program your robot by a sequence of pictures of things. And while that's really good as an educational tool, all of the people who are in robotics are like, this is great for education, but nobody wants to program a robot like this.
Fair.
Nobody wants to work on a robot like this.
Yeah.
So it's a great question. I will be asking them.
I think the key takeaway is a variety of tool gets you there. No one tool ever solves one problem.
Right. That's why it's called a toolbox. It's supposed to hold multiple tools.
Steve, tell me about materials and fiber.
All right, dude. Do you like body armor?
Yeah.
I think body armor is pretty cool, right? It's pretty tight.
Sure.
Kevlar,
John Wick
aramid fiber.
John Wick has some cool one.
Yeah, I mean, assuming you don't have to use it, but it's a cool thing.
Somebody does.
Somebody's got to use it.
Right.
Hopefully, the people on your side. Do you like carbon fiber?
That's the best.
Carbon fiber is pretty tight too, right? So a The Korea Institute of Science and Technology has developed a new composite fiber made of aramid and carbon nanotubes. So they've apparently, like, the aramid fiber, called golden silk or super fiber, blended with carbon nanotubes. They call or the aramid fiber on its own is called golden silk or super fiber.
Okay.
And then you mix it with carbon nanotubes, or lace it with carbon nanotubes, if you will, and they call the new composite black fiber.
Wow.
Sounds super sick. But basically, it's a lighter weight, stronger composite, like could be used for body armor, could be used for car hoods.
Sure.
But you can also send a electrical current through it.
Oh, fascinating.
So this new composite fabric, if you would, or fiber, it doesn't necessarily have to be fabric. It's going to have it's going to unlock so many different applications. So, like, you could integrate, sensors into an automobile hood for lighting purposes, because we've all been to a car show and, lights everywhere are the thing.
Right.
Cars and gaming PCs are very similar, and
Yep.
Many RGB lights as you can stuff in it, the better. But also, there's the defense industry application. All soldiers want body armor, number one, and they all want it to be lighter, because everything that weighs them down weighs them down.
Yep.
So lighter's always better. But the fact that you can run an electrical current through it, and you could theoretically make your body armor also a PCB,
Right.
or a circuit board, you could have something like you could have sensors, or you could have your body armor quite literally a wearable.
Yeah.
And so, like, if a soldier takes a hit, and, like, the sensors theoretically might be able to tell, that projectile penetrated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seek medical attention.
That's good. No, I didn't think about the wearable sensor side of it. I was thinking about, for the long time, or actually forever, the coupling of the battery or the energy at point of use. So, like a walkie-talkie, right? You pick up a walkie-talkie. A big portion of that walkie-talkie is the battery itself,
Yeah.
right? So, if you're able to segregate those two, so the battery is somewhere else, somewhere more centrally located, or somewhere that's easier, or consolidate it to a battery pack across several devices. That's what I was thinking of, is, being able to move the energy storage and point of use equipment, so it's easier to use going forward.
I don't like that idea.
All right.
And I'll tell you only because batteries store energy, and energy always finds a way to release in a manner that you don't want it to, or that it wasn't intended.
That's fair.
When Tesla was having problems with their cars catching fire,
Yep.
it's like, oh, batteries are so dangerous. Guess we got to stick with gas. It's like, what do you think gas is? Oh, a gas car's never caught fire and exploded before?
Right.
You ever heard of the Pinto? It's like, and any kind of energy storage can go horribly wrong.
Correct.
So I would never want to put energy storage with body armor, but maybe for something else.
So use the body armor for that material for transportation of the energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody wants cables.
Right.
In a world where we're trying to go wireless and wireless electricity transfer doesn't exist yet, sounds great.
Yep.
That sounds great. Energy transfer, you can still have issues, but not as bad as, like, energy storage.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. We're on
Fun.
the same page, Steve.
Yeah.
Can I go over
Yeah, your turn. It's your turn.
the role of augmented intelligence in quality inspection? So we've been talking about artificial intelligence. This article talks about augmented intelligence. And I think the reason they bring up this subtle difference in the term is the tools that we're using now is making a lot of decisions for us, like the artificial intelligence. When you give it a command, it's making a lot of decisions to get to an end state. The role of augmented intelligence is identifying or using humans as the final decision-making person or final decision-maker in the process. So then in the scenario, this is from Metrology News. They go over using, obviously, artificial intelligence for, like, vision inspection or different inspection techniques to say they're inspecting like a mirror or a glass. instead of using AI to say, here's a defect and here's a area of concern and a defect, they're using the tool to say, here's the area of concern. Operator, can you check this? Or technician, can you check this? And then they would be the final decision maker. So, instead of having the operator check the entire section,
Right.
having AI say, this of the whole 300 square foot area, 2 square inches of it you should check. Go check this area, and then the decision's made by the technician or operator. So I think it's an interesting subtlety in kind of the thought process behind it. Is humans are still very good on the manufacturing floor.
Yeah.
We're talking about some advanced technologies, but as we're talking about,
I like this a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut you off and say this article is like, it's almost like an academic paper, even though it's just an article.
Sure.
It's just proving our entire episode right.
Yep.
Like, it's supporting us.
It is.
Because AI isn't everything.
Correct.
It's not. It doesn't do all of the work for you. It gets you a long ways the way.
Right.
It does all of the nasty parts that nobody wants to do.
Yep.
And then you get to clean it up, make it look pretty
Exactly.
at the end. And it's when your example, or when you were talking about this, I kind of thought of how original spell check on like Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
It's not like autocorrect, which, as soon as you hit space away from that word,
Right.
autocorrect just corrects the word. Oh, I never spelled a word wrong.
Yep.
Oh, my spelling's perfect. I never see red lines. But that came from like the augmented
Yep.
spell correction.
Exactly.
Which is red line.
Yep.
The computer does not recognize this word.
Yep.
Is this a real word? And if it is a real word, if you right click it, you can see all of the words that we think it might be. Or you get really depressed if it's nowhere near the word that
Yep.
you wanted to, that you meant. And now you're Googling. But
I've gotten in less trouble being spell checked than autocorrect.
yes.
So I think that's a parallel example everyone can relate to.
Yes. This is where augmented is superior. Wow.
Congratulations, Steve.
Dude,
We
this is
made it.
amazing.
Steve, I think we should get to your article so
Okay.
we can let people get on with their day.
Yeah. Okay. My last one, again, materials.
Yeah.
Researchers create self-sensing metamaterial concrete that produces power. So I remember all the way back when I was in college, like a long time ago, people were really excited about some European country, maybe Germany, maybe Sweden or Switzerland, was experimenting with power in the roadways.
Yeah.
So as like a car is driving down the road, either the road absorbs the kinetic energy, the downward kinetic energy from the weight being transferred onto that material of road,
Yep.
to either power something, or at least it being used as a sensor to be like, oh, there's a car coming. Street lamps need to turn on this far in advance, so
Right.
the road is lit for the car.
Right.
But also it saves power because you don't need to leave the entire road of street lamps on if nobody's driving on it.
Yep.
So, but there was also like a futuristic aspect to electric cars can be charged as they're driving down the road
Right.
through induction coming from the road. This is getting a little bit further into the future.
That's cool.
About talking about like the metamaterial behind it.
Yep.
I still think it's really far away.
Right.
But it's being done by the University of Pittsburgh.
Ah.
And you and I love Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is like the most cost-effective city in the United States, if not the world. We've always had a good time when we've gone for work events. It's a really... I'm nerding out about Pittsburgh. It's really nice. Like, you get all of the glamour and the fanciness of like other major cities, but it doesn't cost like anything to have a good time there. It's also small enough where you can walk and see the whole place.
Yep.
And then in terms of cost effectiveness, or to add on to cost effectiveness, one of the major brands at Harbor Freight is Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, my favorite brand. Not Wera, not Snap-on.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
sometimes you don't need a Wera.
Nah.
Sometimes you don't.
Steve, we covered a lot today. I was writing down a couple of things. So artificial intelligence was our theme throughout, but we hit on robotics, metrology, material sciences, energy. Also, key takeaway, love your project manager.
That's right. Trust but verify.
Where can they find more info about us, Steve?
amtonline.org/resources. Like, share, subscribe.
Bye, everyone.
Bing bong. I hit you with the bing bong.